So tomorrow evening begins the Yontiv of Chanukah, Friday night, and actually there are two Shabbos Chanukahs this year, the first night of Chanukah and the 8th night. So we're going to have to deal with this question twice. There's a discussion among the poskim, among the commentators, what is the Seder, what is the order when you light the candles? We'll see, the minhag is that we light candles. If we're talking about Friday night, the minhag is we light near Chanukah first, and then near Shabbos. But that's not what we're going to focus on tonight. We're going to focus on the second half. What about when Shabbos is over? Do you make Havdallah first, or do you make near Chanukah first? So there are many different minhagim based on different poskim, so whatever your minhag is, you can follow your minhag. But that's a discussion. Some say, at least at home in shul, most agree you make that near Chanukah first. You pursue Nishma, publicizing the miracle. But what you do at home, so some have the minhag, you do Chanukah first and then Havdallah, and others say Havdallah first and then Chanukah. So what is the issue there? Whatever your minhag is, follow. But what is in the Kudus HaMachlokas? What's the issue in terms of whether you do Havdallah first or do you do near Chanukah first? So to answer that question, let's first just go over Gemara in Shabbos and the Chof Gimel on the Beis. A famous Gemara. It's not really a 21st century Shaila. Fortunately, we're not afflicted with poverty and we have to make such choices. However, we can learn from here priority in mitzvahs. So the Gemara tells us, Boy Rava, near Chanukah, the Kiddush Hayom, if you have a choice, you have enough money for near Chanukah, for candles for Chanukah, or I should go back a step, Amar Rava, but the beginning of the Gemara is, do you have enough money for near Shabbos or near Chanukah? What wins? You only have enough money to buy candles for Chanukah or candles for Shabbos? So the Gemara concludes, near Shabbos, Amar Rava Pshitali, near Beiso, near Chanukah, near Beiso, Adav Mishum Sholem Beiso, because of the mitzvah of Shalom Bayis, peace of household. We take light for granted today, but during the good old days when there was no light, that was the only lights you had in the house. You had to light fires and light candles. So there's nothing worse than walking around in the dark, stubbing your toe, or ruins the Shalom Bayis in the house. So the Gemara says it's a no-brainer. If you only have enough money for one, you buy near Shabbos and not near Chanukah because of the principle of Shalom Bayis. As well, we find Shalom Bayis is so we find it used in a halachic issue. It's not, we all know, common sense-wise, we all know the importance of Shalom Bayis. But in terms of halacha, we see halacha also recognizes it and it takes precedent. In fact, as the Ramban points out in Parashas Naso, usually mitzvahs and miracles are mutually exclusive. Because the mitzvah means I'm doing it, the miracle God's doing it. So usually you don't have a mitzvah when you don't have a nace, a miracle when you're doing a mitzvah. However, there's one exception to the rule. The mitzvah of meisot, the woman who's suspected of committing adultery, if she drinks from the special waters, so they could come back together again. And part of this water is you erase God's name. It involves the prohibition of mechikas Hashem, of destroying God's name. So it's a mitzvah that involves a miracle, and we see that if a woman drinks from here, if she's guilty, she dies. If she's not, they live happily ever after. But the point being is, we see, because the Ramban writes, because of the Shalom Bayis, the only way you can get this couple together is a siman min hashamayim. There's distrust here, and therefore you have to go ahead and make sure that you can build back the trust. So if God says it's okay, so you can build back the trust. So again, we're just pointing out, halachically speaking, we see the concept of Shalom Bayis. So then Gemara says, okay, near Shabbos, what about if you only have enough money for candles for Chanukah or wine for Kiddush. So what does each one have going for it? Ner Chanukah has Persume Nisa, publicizing the miracle going for it, and Kiddush has Tadir. Tadir v'sheino Tadir, Tadir called in the concept of frequency, that if you something, a mitzvah that happens more often, takes precedence. So which one is it? So the Gemara says, Ner Chanukah wins because of Persume Nisa. So the order of preference is Shalom Bayis wins, that's number one, Ner Shabbos. Second level is Ner Chanukah Persume Nisa. And the third level is Kiddush, wine for Kiddush is Tadir v'sheino Tadir, Tadir Kodem, that's the issue of Tadir. So that's the Gemara. So therefore, Tosfos is bothered. Tosfos over here on Daf Chaf Gimel and Beis raises the issue of Kriyas HaTorah. What is the order of the Seder HaKriya when Shabbos falls out on Shabbos Chanukah and Rosh Chodesh? This year you're not going to have it, but you have 3 Sifrei Torah you take out. So what is the order? You read from Parashat Shavua, and then what? Do you read from Rosh Chodesh first, or do you read from Chanukah first? So the halacha is that you read first from Rosh Chodesh and then Chanukah. So the question is, why? It seems to go against the order of the Gemara. The Gemara said, publicizes the miracle takes precedence over Tadir. So Rosh Chodesh happens more often. Chanukah is Persume Nisa. So I would have said that you read first Chanukah, then Rosh Chodesh. Why do we read it out of order? So this is a major machlokas Rishonim. Some Rishonim point out that when do we say the principle of Persume Nisa Adef, that Persume Nisa wins over Tadir? That's only when you're choosing either or, like our case in the Gemara. Either you buy Ner Shabbos, you buy Ner Shabbos, you buy Ner Chanukah, or you buy wine for Kiddush. So they point out that that's only if it's either or, but if you're going to do both, so then Tadir wins. In other words, if it's the order of which one comes first, you're doing two things, so you're going to read from Rosh Chodesh and Chanukah. If you're doing both, so you do Rosh Chodesh first. But if you're only going to do one, then Persume Nisa wins. So that's how some Rishonim learn. Another Rishonim learn, no, it doesn't make a difference. Persume Nisa Adef, either it's Kadima or not. Either because it comes first or not, it doesn't make a difference. Persume Nisa always wins, whether it's either or. So if that's the case, then so why don't we read Chanukah before Rosh Chodesh? Because Persume Nisa Adef wins doesn't mean it's first. Sometimes, Achron Chavez, sometimes being last is better. And therefore, why is last better here? Since we want to read from the Haftorah of Shabbos Chanukah, so therefore, the halach is we read from the Haftorah from the Maftir. So we want to read from the Maftir Chanukah, so we specifically put it at the end. But Persume Nisa Adef all the time. So that seems to be a machokas in the Rishonim on whether Persume Nisa Adef only wins either or. But if you're doing both, Tadir comes first. Or do I say no? Do I say Persume Nisa always wins, and the only reason we read Rosh Chodesh first is because of the Haftorah. I see. That's what about during the week? During the week, then there is no. So as we'll see, during the week there is no Haftorah, and we'll see when you read. I believe you read first Rosh Chodesh, and then Chanukah, because it's only Tadir, and you don't have any Persume Nisa. So they point out that that's the major machlokas Rishonim on the principle of Tadir versus Persume Nisa. Tadir in general, does Tadir when it wins, Tadir V'Sheino Tadir, Tadir Kodem, it's only sequence, or Tadir even takes precedence. So perhaps with this Gemara we can understand our issue. We asked, there's a major machokas haposkim Motzai Shabbos, Saturday night. What is the Seder? Do we do Havdallah first, or do we do Nir Chanukah? When we come home after Shul and Shabbos, do we do first Nir Chanukah, or do we do Havdallah for Shabbos? So we assume, so again, the different minhagim. My minig is Shabbos and then Chanukah, but they're different minhagim. So what's in the Kudas HaMachokas, this issue? Because this issue, when we say Tadir, V'Sheino Tadir, Tadir Kodem, or when we say Persume Nisa Adef, is that when I'm doing both, or only if I'm doing one? So the Shita that says we do first Nir Chanukah and then Havdallah, because they hold Persume Nisa Adef all the time. Persume Nisa always wins, and therefore it always comes first. And the other school thought that first you do Havdallah, then you do Nir Chanukah. It's true Persume Nisa Adef, but here you're doing both, so therefore you should do the one that's Tadir first. Like we have a similar concept by Tashlumin, by davening. That by davening, the halacha is that we know if you miss a tefillah, you have to make it up the next tefillah. Shacharis, you make it up a mincha, ma'ariv, etc. So we know the halacha is, the Gemara tells us, if it's the afternoon, the time for Musaf and Mincha, and you haven't davened either yet, so strictly speaking, you daven Mincha first, because Tadir V'Sheino Tadir, Tadir Kodem. However, unless of course you're davening b'tzibur, if you're leading the congregation, so you always want to do Musaf before Mincha, not to confuse people. So they point out that, what about the following quiz? Let's say you haven't davened Musaf Mincha, it's only a couple of minutes before Shkia. Let's assume you only could daven it takes you a couple of minutes to daven, 2 minutes, and you have 2 minutes. So which one should you daven? So some say, well, that's the Gemara, Tadir V'Sheino Tadir Toda Kodem, you daven Mincha. Others say no. When do we say Tadir V'Sheino Tadir? That's if you're going to do both. So you do Mincha before Musaf. But over here, the difference is, if you don't daven Mincha, you can make up Mincha. There's Tashlumin. If you don't daven Musaf, there is no Tashlumin by Musaf. So therefore, so some folks can point out, and even though normally Mincha we daven before Musaf, if you only have time to daven one, so then you would daven Musaf over Mincha, because it's not an issue of doing both which order. Tadir only helps in terms of order, but doesn't work in terms of necessarily picking which one, if you only can do one. There are other factors that play a role, whether it's Tashlumin, or in our case, of Chanukah. But that seems to be the issue, in terms of whether one makes Havdallah first Saturday night, or one makes one likes near Chanukah first. Depends on this issue, based on our Gemara, on whether one is permitted to, on whether we say Persume Nisa Adef, does it mean, is it either or is it only, the Gemara's example is only if you have enough money to buy one, so therefore that's the only time you say Persume Nisa wins. But if not Tadir, then you make Havdallah first. But if not, then you do it the other way. If you say that Persume Nisa always wins, then you make Nir Chanukah. And also there's we could go into another time, but just to raise a couple more questions that we'll continue with is, why do you have to choose? Let's say you only have, as Gemara says, if you only have enough money to buy Nir Shabbos or Nir Chanukah, you choose Nir Shabbos because of Shalom Bayis. Why can't you light one candle for both? Why can't I light one for Nir Shabbos and use it as well for Nir Chanukah? That's one question we have to go into, as well as why should Ner Shabbos win over Kiddush? Simple shot is Kiddush Friday night is biblical, and Ner Shabbos is only oneg. It's only midivrei neviim. It's a lower level. It's not a din daraisa. It's not a biblical law. So why should it's good shalom bayis, but that's all things being equal. If you have a biblical mitzvah versus a rabbinic mitzvah or divrei Kabbalah from the prophets, the biblical mitzvah of Kiddush should win out. So that already the Ran raises, and it gets into the nature of the mitzvah of Kiddush, that really we are passing like the Rambam, that only Kiddush Kiddush b'dvarim is daraisa, but Kiddush al yayin is only d'Rabbanan. So therefore we are dealing with the d'Rabbanan, and therefore Shalom Bayis wins. So we'll have to continue next time the issue of why doesn't the Gemara raise the option of lighting one candle for both? And does this halacha still apply today? That if you only have enough money for Ner Shabbos and Ner Hanuka, would you still go with the Ner Shabbos? Would you have to? We'll see we'll have to see what has changed. Perhaps either the mitzvah of Ner Hanuka has changed today, or perhaps the question is, what about electric lights? Maybe we could use an electric light for one of the mitzvahs and use the candle for the other. That's what we'll have to continue on.